Hey, welcome back to the Ping Pong Flick Show. My name is Chris Wong. This is episode 349 of the Ping Pong Flick Show, and today is a sad day. It's a good sad, but still kind of a sad day because more is being revealed about the Justice League Snyder Cut. Zack Snyder today decided to put out this little picture here of Vic pounds the earth at the family plot. So this is Ray Fisher as Cyborg pounding away at a grave. And pretty much he's saying family plot, so you know this is Eleanor Stone, his mother's grave. This is such a heartbreaking moment right here. So this is probably when he finds out that his mother is gone, or something transpired here where he is totally heartbroken, beating the earth, wanting to get his mom back. It's very heartbreaking. I can't believe the studio would take this out, right? Because essentially, Victor Stone, like Zack Snyder said, was supposed to be the heart of this film. But Warner Brothers decided to rip the heart of this film out of this movie, taking away Cyborg's story altogether, and reshooting a lot of that. Joss Whedon reshoot a lot of those Cyborg moment scenes, and it just made him a side character rather the pivotal character of this Justice League film. And look how gorgeous this shot is. It's in black and white. But just looking at how it's compositioned and everything, the lighting, you know this was a beautiful, beautiful shot. And Ramesh De Silva, bless his soul, he had made some edits on this and put some color in. One's a night shot, one's like a dawn shot, and they look absolutely fantastic. It kind of gives you a kind of a look of how it probably is, what kind of color grading would have been in this movie, how this scene would have looked in color in this film, and it would have been fantastic. It would have been so great. It would have been, I can't, talk about it enough. I just can't believe Warner Brothers would have done this, right? It would, for people, especially in this day and age where people are like wanting to see, POC more in the spotlight, like Black Panther and stuff like this, and yet they took all this out, seeing that probably the studio exec scenes, well, nobody really cares about Cyborg, we want to have Superman, Wonder Woman, especially Wonder Woman front and center, and there's nothing bad about that, but that's not what Zack wanted. Zack wanted to push Ray Fisher and his character into front and center, to be the pivotal, to be the monument, to be the heart of this film, and they ripped it away. And it's incredibly sad. And at least, Fabian Wagner came out and he saw this little shot here, and he actually, I think this is on Instagram or Vero, I think it's on Instagram, where he replied to that shot and he said, "This was a great scene to shoot. So nice to see this picture. Would have loved to have seen a final cut of it." So, the cinematographer himself, Fabian Wagner, who has done Game of Thrones, they decide to take away this shot, this fantastic cinematography, this fantastic composition shot, this fantastic moment where you can kind of have that connection between, Victor and Eleanor Stone, all those scenes. Karen, her character is totally gone. I mean, she didn't get to even be this movie. Rather, just a photo shoot. Just a little picture of her on the nightstand. That's all she was in this movie. She could have been in this film. We could have had that family moment, like every movie in the DCEU we've had, between a character and his mother. Every DCEU was like this, but they ripped it out. They took it out. Who's responsible for this, right? Who's responsible for them ripping out Cyborg out of this? Well, Jason LeBoy, who's a photographer, He's been in the know because he talks to Ray Fisher, he talks to these people, he talks to these celebrities, and he would know that he said this. He tweeted this out today. Jeff Johns removed all of this so he can have his story as the Cyborg standalone film. Jeff Johns is the trash of the earth. He said this. He literally tweeted this out. And we've kind of known this for a while now, that Jeff Johns is the he kind of got, his ego got to him. He wanted to be the next Kevin Feige. And even, Dave the Film Junkie Source has also said this as well. He wanted to be the next Kevin Feige. He wanted to be the next guy with the baseball cap, commandeering this whole thing, ripping out stories here and there for his own thing, because his ego just got to him. He was DC Films president. He wanted to shepherd all this thing, and he wanted to be the one. He wanted to be the one that made this entire cinematic universe his own. Now, albeit he's a great writer and stuff, but he's probably not. He got to his head, and he started changing things around. He started changing the movies around, and he became a big, heavy hitter. Now, this came from the Fire and Water podcast a while back, where Neil Daly talked about some of the things he was involved when the executives and the studios wanted to screen test a lot of these DCEU films. He's a market research analysis for Warner Brothers films. So he came out and told everybody how it happened, and I can probably link this video that I talked about in the description below, so check that out if you want the full story. But it talked about the Jeff Johns era, and he said this: Jeff Johns was a heavy hitter in some of these meetings. He had Toby Emmerich's ear before Hamada came in. They had scrapped every Snyder idea, and had they used a focus group during Justice League without starting Aquaman, they would have made Flash. This is why Ben Affleck wanted out of Batman. Aquaman was the only story that was close to being finished. And remember, in this same conversation, that they want Jeff Johns really tried to control James Wan, and says, you gotta keep Black Manta in there. I don't care what you do, you're gonna keep him in there, right? He really bullied James Wan, and he was really a detriment to these director-driven films in a way, because he wanted to do that entire universe. He wanted to be the Kevin Feige. Now, in another universe, that could have been okay, and he could have done that by restarting and doing his own thing, getting his own directors and having them approve through the approval process. But no, instead, Zack Snyder was already creating something. James Wan was already creating something. He was a bully that just dropped in and started pointing directions. No, you got to change that. You got to do this. You got to edit that out. You got to cut this out. You got to do everything. He became the bully and started just ripping apart existing films. And that is a big detriment to the DCEU, that current DCEU universe. And he's shown himself to be that way. Now, it's also Toby Emmerich's fault as well. As in this article, they're saying that a lot of the decisions were made in the higher ups, the execs, which is Toby Emmerich. Jeff Johns and John Berg became the fall people, even though they're also partially involved. That's why they were demoted. Jeff Johns was pretty much kicked out. He had to, make his own, I guess you call it a company. I forgot what it's called, Mad Ghost or something. He's starting to write for a story, starting to write scripts like Green Lantern Corp, depending on if the studio will actually accept that or not. But pretty much he's now no longer under the Warner Brothers payroll. John Berg, I don't know where he went. He went demoted somewhere else. But Toby Emmerich is still there. And Toby Emmerich, along with Kevin Tsujihara, but I believe now it's mostly Toby Emmerich, is also the people that took, all this Jeff Johns advice to heart and really asked Jeff Johns what he should do, and it backfired. Backfired big. He just let Jeff Johns go, and he's still sitting on that eagle that is preventing all this stuff from happening, preventing all this Snyder Cut from happening. But we're starting to see it a lot more now, and all this is getting us a lot more emotional and angry again, because these are beautiful moments. That is the pinnacle of the DCU, I believe, in which superheroes become heroes because of their parents. Has got those connections. Even Barry Allen had a thing about his mom dying. That kind of turned him into a hero. Batman, you know how Batman's parents died. You know how Superman's parents died. You know how Superman's adopted parents had effect on him. You even see Shazam, how his mom not being there had an effect on him, and his adopted parents had an effect on him. So these familial moments are so crucial, I believe, in the DCU, that it's different, making it so different from the MCU. When you're talking about what's the difference between the MCU and the DCU, it's the familial part of the DCU, I believe. Those deep and darker moments that create these heroes, that make them human, makes Cyborg, even though he's mostly a robot now, right? That his mother's loss, the connection between him and his mother, the connection between him and his father, those are the moments that make him human, that make him relatable. And Jeff Johns removed that because his ego, also Toby Emmerich's ego, got to them, and he wanted to create his own thing without letting Zack Snyder and James Wan and Patty, whoever, let them finish their work and finish their universe. I wish we could, go back in time and they had some sense and they said, you know what, Zack Snyder, you go ahead, continue that universe you want. DCEU, the DC universe is about multiverse. We could go ahead and do our little universe here. Jeff Johns, here, you go choose your own directors and stuff like that. You go do your own little sandbox here, but leave these guys alone because we had an agreement. And we're gonna let them finish their project. I wish it was like that, but it didn't happen like that, and that makes it so much more harder for the fandom, for the directors that wanted to work with them and kind of maybe second guessing if they should work for them or not. This is why Matt Reeves didn't even want to do it, because Jeff Johns was trying to control him. Imagine that same meeting where Matt Reeves is like, no, I want to do this Batman. Why do I have to do that Batman or that Batman? Why do I have to listen to you? I'm out. And so he did. He left. He got up and left. And they had some sense and says, you know what? Never mind. Do whatever you want. I wish they did the same thing for Ben Affleck. And Ben Affleck was totally... he was already pissed off at Justice League already. And we can't blame him, right? So a lot of this stuff is more coming out, and I'm happy. I'm totally floored that Zack Snyder shared it, but at the same time, it brings up some emotions and anger and sadness that comes along with it. But you know what? If it's just to show other people out there that this movie is completely different than what you're thinking, completely different in the sense of who's the protagonist, who's the main characters, then who's the heart of the film, then show a way, reveal a way. And I'm so glad he's able to do this. In a little lighter moments of this, right? When you start to look at this and start to see how much he just shows off, and where he is right now, right? You're assuming he's shooting somewhere. Now, some people are noticing that the way it's framed, where it's kind of like off even, it's kind of like he's watching off a projector or a screen, like the Uxas, whatever his name is, Dark Side, that screen. It's kind of like a little uneven. It's like he's really just screen capping it off of some kind of projector or some kind of screen. And that makes me like, wow. So it's either one, this definitely is on his phone. Two, he's projecting and he's watching. He's able to, it's making some of us kind of jealous, a little bit like, man, that Zack Snyder, he could literally just pull it up anytime in between breaks, in between shoots, snap a shot, and it's like, I'm watching this right now. And we're all like, man, I wish we were there. Wish we could be just like a fly in that wall and just watch it with them all in full color and stuff like that. But in any case, it is fascinating to see this, and I'm glad he did this. And it kind of just ushers along in a way, just kind of lets us mend our little trivial fights on Twitter a little bit, and just to focus in on something that we should be focused on, and that's release the Snyder Cut. This is one of those moments that could actually bring us together every time. It's like he's just keep saying, he's telling us, keep going, almost there. Please focus on the movement. Please focus on the movie, and stop with your squabbles. But who knows, right? So this is fantastic. I can't wait to see more. I can't wait to see other things that are involved with this. And a lot of people are saying, he's really talking about Victor Stone, and he should, because he was the heart of the movie. A little bit on a lighter note, and this may go into tinfoil territory once again, and I've talked about how Henry Cavill is really almost like he's hinting at Superman in a way. I'm not sure if he really is. But Jim Lee, as you know, is still the DC president of the comic book, the DC Entertainment, sorry. So he's pretty involved. He's got what is Jeff Johns' job, right? So he Instagrammed this out, and it's a picture of Superman lasering Batman. Now that kind of looks familiar. It's kind of like in Brightburn, where he kills the father that way, but also maybe alluding to a little bit of Injustice, alluding to the actual Batman v Superman in a way. So he put that out, and it got liked by Henry Cavill. And Henry Cavill actually says, he actually replied, "See, was holding back the whole time." Jim Lee replied back, "It's your Midwestern upbringing, polite to a fault." So it almost assuming, in essence, a way of saying, hey, I'm still Superman. Thank you for posting Superman. Jim Lee also recognizing that he's still Superman. And hopefully that's our tinfoil for you. I mean, that's what we're kind of thinking in a way. It's great to see him interact, because I'd say if he was, I don't, everybody's different. But if I was very negative and I'm like, I didn't get the role anymore, they're no longer going to make me Superman, I would probably try to keep it, I would probably try to put that behind me, right? I'll probably try to say, okay, fine, I'm moving on for Superman stuff. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to even hint at it and tease at it. I'm not going to even look at it anymore. But either Henry Cavill is trying to push that, well, I'm still Superman, and then look, studio, I'm still interested in Superman. See, I'm still interested. Or he's really is hinting that I am still Superman. There's just no project on the table right now, but we're waiting for good news. We're waiting for what's going to happen, like the rest of us. What's going to happen this week when Ann Starnoff walks through Warner Brothers? There's not going to be anything right away, I don't think, if at all. But I am really optimistic and hopeful that she makes some big changes in this. And it's just interesting to see our Snyder Cut movement get a little bit more, I guess, trending. It's getting bigger and bigger. The way its awareness is getting bigger. How Zack Snyder is just pushing it along. I'm very hopeful. I'm hoping him showing all this stuff doesn't mean that he's able to show it now, or either he did say himself he doesn't care about the mass media. This is all for us, and which is fantastic. But I also hope that this is going into the direction of more positive news coming out about the Snyder Cut, about Henry Cavill being Superman, just like how they said that Ezra Miller is still the Flash. Hopefully Ray Fisher is still Cyborg, which he says it's not over yet. And I just hope this is going into a new direction. I hope that everything at Warner Brothers is on a standstill. They're like, hold off. We have a new boss in town. Let's hold off on everything. Toby Emmerich is trying to hide all his bonus checks in that little case of his. He's the little criminal, the little bandit who's trying to say shred that, before she walks into offices. But I don't know. I'm just joking about that. But I really hope Ann Sarnoff does wonders for the DCEU fandom and for the DC universe here on out, including, Godzilla. So that's my guess anyway. Hopefully optimistic about Ann Sarnoff, optimistic about the Snyder Cut, and optimistic about all this little hints and clues possibly leading towards something more positive. That's my outlook on it. Believe me or not, but I continue to keep my hope up, and ready to see if there's any good news, hopefully within the coming weeks, in terms of Warner Brothers and DCEU. All right, guys. Well, that is it for today. I want to thank you so much for subscribing. I want to thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.